So I want to take a look at a few different players who I think have taken a slight fall in this camp from where they were entering camp, at least in my mind. And if you guys are new here, I cover the Packers almost daily, so feel free to subscribe if you're into that kind of thing. But first off, we have Yosh Nijman. So on Saturday, I would have expected Yosh Nijman to get the start at left tackle with Bakhtiari not playing, but it was 2022 7th rounder Rasheed Walker who got the start at left tackle, which sort of signaled to me that Walker seems to be pushing Yosh Nijman for that backup left tackle job, which is pretty interesting just considering the Packers gave Yosh Nijman the second round restricted free agent tender this offseason, which counts as $4.3 million against the cap for Yosh Nijman. So the Packers aren't, paying Nijman a minimum deal. It is $4.3 million. So the fact that Rasheed Walker has seemingly pushed his way ahead of Nijman, we'll see if it stays that way as camp continues, but it happened today at practice as well. With that being the case, it looks to me that the Packers have lots of confidence in Rasheed Walker, which means that Yosh Nijman is seemingly taking, maybe moving down a spot on this, in this Packers offensive line. And I still think the fact that the Packers decided to give Nijman the tender here, it's still a smart move just because there was probably uncertainty, as to whether or not some other young player would step up and be able to fill that backup left tackle role if Bakhtiari isn't able to go or suffer some kind of injury sometime this season. And so it's still nice to have a guy like Nijman, who I think is a very solid tackle. So far in the preseason, in 53 snaps, hasn't allowed a pressure or a sack. So it's not like he's a bad player. The Packers seemingly are starting to like Rasheed Walker more than Yosh Nijman, but to be able to have the depth we have here, very, very important. And if Zach Tom ever missed time at right tackle, there's no doubt Nijman could play right tackle, left tackle. We saw him do it last year, over 500 snaps at right tackle and 200 snaps at left tackle. So we'll keep watching to see if Rasheed Walker continues to take those snaps over Nijman. Next, we have another guy who I don't think has taken a huge step down, but just slightly in my mind. That's Samori Toure, who just hasn't, in my mind, in the preseason made too many eye-opening plays. I think a guy like Malik Heath, undrafted free agent, has made more wow plays in my mind, and I was even more impressed by a guy like Dontavian Wicks. The thing about Samori Toure is he does seem to be the second slot receiver behind Jayden Reed. If you look at slot snaps in the preseason, he has been pretty much second in line to Jayden Reed. And Toure has taken 76% of his snaps from the slot. So I still think he's going to make the roster. He's still, in the first preseason game, he made some nice plays, 3 receptions for 56 yards. But when a guy like Malik Heath has sort of intrigued me even more than a guy like Toure, that's why I slightly put him down a little bit. But I still think he can be a solid player. Then to end it off here, we have Pat O'Donnell, Packers punter. So last week, Brian Gutekunst mentioned that there is a competition going on at punter with Daniel Whelan, who the Packers brought in this offseason, who earned all XFL honors when he was in the XFL in 2023 with the DC Defenders. So the fact that these two guys are still on the roster battling it out, and the fact that Pat O'Donnell is a veteran punter, gives me an idea that Whelan could potentially win this job. He is younger. He probably has a little bit more power, considering he is a younger player, 24 years old. I believe Pat O'Donnell is 32 or 33. And so this is a pretty, it is a competition still. And so just because of that, and the fact that O'Donnell was the guy last year, makes me say that O'Donnell's maybe fallen slightly in my mind here in Green Bay during this camp. So those are the 3 guys I've thought of. Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you haven't dropped a like, feel free to like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.